Hi everyone, I'm Keith DeStone and I'm here again with Greg Nagy and Hélène and Claudia to talk about heroes. And today we're going to talk about Heracles as a way of wrapping up a lot of our conversations thus far about heroes and also as a way of looking forward. So Greg, over to you.
Thank you, Keith. And this is something that I share, especially with you, dear Keith, with you, dear Claudia, with you, dear Hélène, because we have traveled this road before. What amazes me about this year is that the four of us and wonderful other participants uh, were trying to squeeze what we want to say about Heracles, and for that matter, the big picture about Achilles, because we were so eager to uh, have closure with Plato. But of course, closure with Plato is really open ended because Socratic dialogue is meant to be aporetic. In other words, uh, you don't really get everything nicely tied together at the end. It's open-ended for whatever dialogue was happening to be continued with the next dialogue and the next dialogue, generation after generation. So it's the question of the living word. And I love the fact that Socrates, although he's not sure that there is an afterlife, or at least Plato Socrates isn't sure. He says, well, if there is an afterlife, I imagine it would be an Orphic afterlife. And we talked about that before. And then one of the first things I want to do is have a dialogue with Achilles. He doesn't mention Achilles first, but he does get to mentioning Achilles, how important it is for a dialogue with Achilles, and a dialogue with which part of Achilles. Is it what Achilles says in in Rhapsody 9, or is it what Achilles says much later in Rhapsody 18, Rhapsody 19, and so on? But because we did consciously try to squeeze into a slightly smaller space what is said about Heracles, who is the hero that we started with, and then Achilles, who then really supersedes Heracles because he is really the number one hero in Homeric poetry when you add it all together. I find it so fascinating that both of these characters, both Heracles and Achilles, and I'm going to try to say this in a very quick way, both of them are not just perfect examples for the ancient Greek hero, whether we take 24 hours or longer or shorter to try to grasp what is the idea of an ancient Greek hero. But in the case of Heracles, one thing that in the book, Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours, uh, I didn't get enough space to do, and I was already taking up a lot of space, is Heracles as the prototype of athletics. That's why eventually I came out with this book, which is kind of a companion to Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours. This one is called Ancient Greek Heroes, Athletes, Poetry, published in 2024, which is available for free online, although you can also buy it in a printed version from Harvard University Press. And in there, I managed to do justice to uh, Heracles, or at least I tried to do justice to Heracles as the uh, the most important element, so to speak, for us to think about when we think of Heracles as a prototype for the experiences of athletes uh, in the classical period, which we know a lot about, or even athletes today for that matter. But also, interestingly, um, this gave me a chance in this book, Ancient Greek Heroes, Athletes, Poetry, to talk about Achilles as an athlete, which again, I didn't really have the opportunity to do. And for HeroesX, what's beautiful about this ongoing project, where we don't uh, allow the word to die and where the dialogue continues. It's so important for me to think of Heracles the athlete and Achilles the athlete, um, which we haven't yet talked enough about. So, for the remaining 5 or so minutes, let me try to talk about first Achilles as an athlete. Interestingly, when we finally hear about what people admire most in the heroic age about the heroic qualities of Achilles, it's his skill as a charioteer. It's not so much as a fighter in other ways, it's his skill as a charioteer. Wow. Well, charioteers are, of course, the most prestigious kinds of athletes. And I like the fact that only in Odyssey 24, towards the very end of our Homeric experience, or should I say the latest aspect of our Homeric experience, there's a description of the funeral of Achilles where he is described in death as the one who has no longer any thoughts anymore about his prowess as a charioteer. Lelasmenos hyposunaon. He is now blanked out about his great feats as a chariot fighter. So there, only towards the very end, so to speak, of the Homeric experience, do we hear of Achilles as a super athlete. Similarly, um, in this chapter, I try to give tribute to Heracles as a super athlete, but instead of dwelling on what the rest of the book, Ancient Greek Heroes, Athletes, Poetry, is about, which is how he's the founder of the Olympics, which is the most prestigious festival of athletics. Instead, I go to this amazing uh, drama by Euripides, which technically should be a satyr drama because it's the fourth of a series of four offerings that Euripides puts into competition. And this drama called the Alcestis occupies number four, which should be a satyr drama, but instead it's about this heroic woman who gives up her life to save the life of her husband, Admetus. And Heracles comes on the scene, and at first he doesn't realize that Admetus is in mourning because he's just lost his wife who has given up her life for him. And he's having what would be called a grand old party time. He is drinking a lot. He's eating a lot, which is something that Heracles can do. And he's having a good party time, not realizing that the household is in mourning. And then he goes off, and then it hits him. Oh, I've missed something. This woman was dead, and people were mourning. I'm going to try to bring her back to life. So he has a wrestling match with Thanatos, who is Mr. Death. Ordinarily, in Panhellenic poetics, death is conceived as is visualized as Hades, who is a not very physical way of thinking about death. He is so stylized. He's so almost Olympian as the god of death. This is Mr. Thanatos, and the scholia, that is to say, the learned notes that have survived in the textual tradition of Euripides' Alcestis, what they say about this particular drama is that it's de modes kai diastomatos historia, a story that is popular, de modes, and transmitted by oral tradition. Wow. So guess what? In the oral tradition of Greek songmaking, even today, the way to talk about the experience of death in the most primal way is to personify him as Thanatos, which means death. And that's what happens in the Alcestis. But the thing is, because it's so démodés, this is not the Olympics, ladies and gentlemen. This is a local athletic festival, or at least that's what Heracles says when he makes a re-entry into the plot of the Alcestis, and people are still mourning. And he's bringing this beautiful woman. Well, we think she's beautiful. She's wearing a veil, and says, "Hey, Admetus, I know you're now grieving for your wife, but as a consolation prize, I brought you this beautiful new bride." And of course, it's Alcestis herself who has been the prize of his conquering Mr. Death, Thanatos, in a wrestling match. But I love the way he puts it. He says, "Oh, I was at a wrestling match. It was a local athletic festival, and I got as a prize this nice lady. So I brought you, Admetus, as a prize, this nice lady that you can now marry as a consolation prize for the married woman that you lost." And of course, in a way, it is a satyr drama because this is showing Heracles in a kind of buffo role, right? But on the other hand, it's the most beautiful statement of um, what happens when you really boil down what makes Heracles the special hero. It's because he has a special way of experiencing life after death. And that life after death is on Olympus, and we know all of the grandiose aspects of that myth because, for example, I spent eternities talking about it in hour one of Ancient Greek Hero in 24 hours. That's already an hour one. But here, in a sense, in this second book, Ancient Greek Heroes, Athletes, Poetry, what we come to is more of a coming full circle because now we see that Heracles, on a most primal level, overcomes death, personified as Thanatos, which means death. And the way he does it is to restore a beloved wife to a loving husband. Uh, it's so primal. And I would like to call on you three wonderful colleagues to um, maybe talk a little bit more about why I, Greg, think that this is such a satisfactory way of coming full circle. Words fail me.
Well, I immediately think of what you already said, which is that Heracles is the hero with whom you start in the book of the Ancient Greek Hero in 24 hours, and in the first hour of contact time with students.
Yes.
Um, Heracles, from Heracles, you kind of draw the template for what a hero is: unseasonal, larger than life,
Yes.
antagonistic with a divinity who shares some kind of territory with
Yeah.
them. And so to return to Heracles as a launching off point for further
Yeah.
investigations, right there is such a beautiful coming full circle.
I love that. And I hope that's what HeroesX is for us, is that although for, shall we say, this phase of the cycle, um, we're at least by way of word coming full circle and and again thinking about winning life after death by way of a struggle that is analogous to athletics, so that it's almost funny when Heracles says very modestly, I defeated death, but oh, it was a local wrestling match at a local festival." And the fact that it's local means that anybody can relate to it. You don't have to be elite to relate to it. You don't have to be an Olympic victor.
Mhm.
You can just compete in any kind of athletic struggle, and it is an atlas, which is a struggle, but that's the word that gives us athlete, and that means that we can transcend time, even transcend the classical model, which is very highfalutin, and think of any athletic struggle, which is a struggle to not just win back life, but win back the living word, because the living word tells us about this. And that's what Euripides, in his whimsical way, is doing in what should be a satyr drama. following a set of three tragedies. My goodness.
It's so beautiful, Greg. And I love that idea of, him achieving this victory over death at a local place. Because, we've talked in the past when we were thinking about lament and we were thinking about some rituals, like a marriage ritual, that there are these moments in the lives of the everyday people where they do approach this, of this moment
Yeah.
of being equal to a daimon, equal to
Yes.
something that
Yes.
is divine. And so um, it's just a reminder that the everyday person, even though they would never be a Heracles, is when engaged in the rituals and in these moments of performance, experiencing
Yes.
them before them, has the opportunity to approach those limits as well and to achieve something beautiful and great.
I love that. And dear Hélène, I think you should have, if not the last word, the latest word, because we all depend on you so much with the wonderful work that you and your colleagues do for the Cosmos organization. And to me, that's the, if I can put it this way, the life force that keeps us going and that motivates us to keep organizing in such a way that we can continue to have um, institutions like office hours, which I hope will never really end, but will keep coming full circle. So, dear Hélène, not the last word, but the latest word.
Yes, so what about Cosmos Society? It's an online community with a focus on the classical world. And, it provides you access to a growing collection of resources, international community of learners, who do close reading and through, thoughtful dialogue. So what we do is we use a collaborative model and online tools. And so you are enabled to connect and to study our ancient languages and text. And also we do everything openly and it's free. You have a lot of content. So please feel free to come and then to register and then to be
Yes.
part of this wonderful, you know, Cosmos Society. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
what we have.
And
I love it.
even though I said that Hélène will have the last word or latest word, may I add a footnote which has to do with modern Greek myth making. It has to do with what a captain of a ship that is threatened by a storm, where there's danger of shipwreck, what the captain should do if suddenly from the bottom of the sea out emerges uh, one of the Nereides, which in modern Greek is the equivalent of Nereids, like Achilles' mother and Achilles' aunts. But you can think of one of the Nereides as a mermaid, except in modern Greek mythmaking, this mermaid is the daughter of Alexander in some traditions. I mean, Alexander the Great. What the captain is supposed to say to the daughter of Alexander the Great, is Zi ke Vasilevi ke ton gosmo Kirievi. He lives and reigns and takes possession of the cosmos with a K, takes possession of the universe. And the universe is not, shall we say, oh, the way historians talk about, or pseudo historians talk about Alexander the Great conquered the world. Well, he
Mm.
didn't conquer the world, but in his Egyptian, shall we say, role, because he becomes, shall we say, a pharaoh of Egypt. He is the cosmocrator. He is the ruler of the cosmos. And how is he a ruler of the cosmos? Because his body, his soma, is lodged inside the Library of Alexandria, which is named after him. So I like to think of Alexander not so much as the person who conquered the world, the cosmos, but as the person who founded the Library of Alexandria. And every time you pick up a scroll and you start reading, we know from Plato that letters are dead, but letters come alive when you read them. They come alive at you. And so that's what the library is about, is the word comes alive, just as the mummy of Alexander the Great comes alive in Egyptian religion in the fullness of time when the mummy is immortalized after death. So Greeks call Alexander's mummy the soma, and that's the body that is destined to come back to life, just as the letters in the library come back to life when we unroll the scroll and read.
So beautiful, Greg. And I'm glad you brought us back to this, the Library of Alexandria, because I just want to share with the community that these office hours are being brought to you through the auspices of the New Alexandria Foundation. And the mission of the New Alexandria Foundation is to expand access to studies about the pre-modern world and to foster ongoing dialogues that are really vital to humanism and
Yes.
humanity, really to the future of humanity. So we hope that everyone will join us in supporting that mission, and we'll be sharing some information about that in the days to come. We want to thank Hélène for all your amazing leadership at the Cosmos Society. We hope everyone will join the amazing work there. And I think all the things you articulated, international, intergenerational, open access, a community of people that's creating continuing resources, free content. Those are all the values of the New Alexandria Foundation. And so we want to continue supporting your work. We want to continue supporting this community. And we have exciting things to come in 2026. So please continue joining us. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Keith, Hélène. And we'll see you all very soon.